Gamers, it is November 29th right now, and I'm here to make a tier list. This is urgent, emergent, emergency tier list. There is no time. We have to get to it right away. Otherwise,
who knows what might happen.
That being said, I would say this is a tier list that I think most likely things will already change mid to late December. Not because of there's going to be more changes or something, but because I think the game has received so many changes recently, very quickly, that the meta might have not settled in yet, okay? Not with every civ, but I think there might be some civs that might be kind of up and down. I'll kind of talk about that. That being said, a disclaimer. Joe Schmo and Bob from Gold League, this civ tier list is not for you, okay? You're losing the games because whatever you're playing is the worst civ and your opponent, whatever they're playing is the most broken civ. That's why you're losing. It's not because you're bad. This civ tier list is for top level gameplay only. But based in Conquer 4, OTD has a high win rate. That's not top level gameplay. Listen, top level gameplay is like top 10, top 20, okay? Conquer 4, I mean, Core could reach that. You know what I mean? So let's get started. I've been playing a lot of different civs, and there's one civ that I gave a lot of attention. Since the patch, I was like, yo, this might change it up for them. This might be it. This might be it. Maybe it's a good civ. It's the worst civ in the game. There is no matchups where this civ is good at. Maybe French and JD. Maybe. Everything else is a disaster. It gets outmassed by everything. 2 TC, like if you manage to pull off 2 TC with OTD and not die, it's decent. But at the top level, by the time you go 2 TC, you're either dead or the opponent is castling 2 Colded Relics and you're hard stuck. It's just not good. It doesn't even have like a problem that I'm like, they should buff this and fix it. This civ will always have a problem of it's either completely shit or it's broken because the way the civ works, which is, you know, having less units, but units having more HP. But yeah, I've tried playing it a lot. I probably have 20, 25 games since the patch with just OTD. Like, I feel like even when I win, I shouldn't have won that, right? If something my opponent did was a little bit changed, I would have lost that. Trust me, I'm saying this as someone who really wants OTD to work. I like the idea of OTD, but I just can't make it work. Now, if you're wondering why is OTD win rate high in Gold League, it's because OTD in Gold is easy to play. There's less units. People have no clue how to play the game. And, you know, Man-at-Arms being bane of Gold League, OTD can make Man-at-Arms with like an extra upgrade and just kind of kill the opponents. Oh yeah, note. I want to just give a note. OTD Chapel also received the nerf, but the indicator is not correct. So if you're playing OTD, be careful. The indicator is not correct. The next one, receiving a downgrade right now. Downgrade right here. Watch out. It went from S+ to S tier. Give it up for Abbasid. Abbasid received Eco Wing nerf and Camel Archer nerf. Is it bad? Hell no. Is it S tier? Hell yeah. It's really good. It's just really good. I don't know what else to say. It's a really good civ, and it's one of the best civs right now. Next civilization we will be talking about is going to be potentially the second worst civ in the game. Ottoman. We'll see. Maybe they're not second worst, but Ottoman pretty bad. Now, Ottoman is in a very similar state to OTD, where it's like, if they're Imperial and they have good eco and everything, they're amazing. But it's just so hard to play Ottoman. I don't know. Like, the economy ain't there. The units are great, you know. Sipahi and Janissaries are great. It just takes a little bit too long for them to kick in. And I think right now the meta is basically going for 2 town centers or going for castle rush, and Ottoman is not really good at either of those things. On top of that, you need to find a way to build military school somewhere in there too. So it's just a very slow civ. Like, there's a lot of civs that can go 2TC and reach castle faster than you can if you do 2TC as well. If you go fast castle, pretty much more than half the civs can go fast castle faster than you, right? So I feel like the Ottoman excelled at feudal fighting, but even the feudal fighting for them, a lot of civs can actually just straight up beat them there, or have a very, very good matchup, and the ones that don't, that you can just get castle very, very quickly. Ottoman needs something to speed them up. I would love if they nerfed the Janissaries like by a damage or 2, and maybe nerfed Sipahi range by a little bit, and just gave them something. I don't know what. Maybe the sheep vizier point should give 15% wood gathering speed instead of mining speed. The mining speed one is cool, but it only really helps you later stages in the game. So maybe if they had 50% wood gathering, it's easier to go for military schools, it's easier to do feudal pushes, it's easier to transition to farms, which would help Ottoman in a lot of different areas of the game. But other than that, it just, they're in a bit of a struggle bus right now, as it is. So next one we'll be talking about is going to be, I'm just gonna slap these two. It's gonna be French and JD. I'm just gonna slap them together. JD actually, so in the, not the most recent, but the one before patch, I think, we had the ability to make JD units out of barracks and stables, and I gotta say that did not impact how to play JD almost at all. I haven't seen any player have any kind of strategies developed around that, and I talked about this before. The units are very expensive, and what they counter doesn't really make sense, right? The Man-at-Arm, Jean's Champions counter Spearmen, great. So does like every other unit in the game except Horseman and Knight as well. So it's like, you know. Now what they do have going on for them is right now it's a pretty much a very crossbow Knight meta, right? Or at least Horseman crossbow meta. They have obviously very good knights, and they have best crossbows in the game, so that's very good. Or maybe OOTD crossbows are better, but you know, the normal units crossbows are very, very good. And to be fair, I think they would even be perhaps higher if some of the best civs in the game weren't like very good against these two. So civilizations like Abbasid, civilizations like Byzantine are very good into French and JD. Well, those civs are just, you know, just are at the top. So if you're ever playing tournaments or something, if you pick French and JD, there's a very high chance that you're not only going to be running into good civs, but you're going to be running into good civs that counter you. So I think that's a bit of a problem. Sometimes you have a civ. If that wasn't the case, I would probably put them in A tier. But sometimes a civ is really good, but other civs that are really good just completely counter that civ. And you know, it's not that that civ necessarily needs more buffs, it's that just the way the civs interact is pretty unfortunate for them. Next civilization, I'll be talking about Malians. And I'm going to put Malians into A tier. I think Malians are very good. Now, I am not looking at the, I don't know when you guys are watching this video, but the javelin bug where you can get the Farimba javelins in Feudal Age, I am not counting that because it's a bug and it will get fixed. So I'm counting normal Malian gameplay. I think Malian is just A tier. It's just a good civ. I feel like it doesn't have many hard counters. I feel like it has as many hard counters as many civs as hard counters. But overall, I think it's a pretty good pick. It's a pretty standard one. Like, I feel like you can blind pick it almost into anything. Yeah, I just think it's good. I haven't had a lot of games with Malian in Imperial. For those that don't know, Malian hand cannoneers deal the most damage out of any hand cannoneer in the game. And because the hand cannoneers have received a change or nerf, whatever you want to call it, Malian hand cannoneers might be actually insanely good. Because all other hand cannoneers got 3 damage less, if I'm not mistaken. Someone can fact check me on that. Yeah, I haven't played a lot of Malian Imperial, but like I said, they might be actually pretty good in Imperial now because of it. Everyone else's hand cannoners got nerfed. Malian too, but theirs got a little bit more damage now. Yeah, they do have 3 damage more. Yeah. The next civilization, and I don't know where I put them last time because it was very short after the patch. I think I already put them, but Delhi is absolutely S tier, and it's very good. And Delhi right now is almost, and it might be like an S plus tier civ. Okay, so out of like S tier civs, I would say so far what I put in there, Delhi is better than Abbasid. And the problem with this is, I actually discussed this in my stream 2 days ago. So Delhi actually hasn't received any massive changes. Obviously university upgrades, and they did get slight buff on the elephants. But I actually don't think the elephants are the issue. The elephants are very expensive. It takes a long time to build a big amount. This is the problem when I thought about it. Delhi used to be terrible in Imperial. If you reach Imperial, you don't have any upgrades, and everything is slow, and your economy is bad, and you're just kind of cooked, right? So you always went Tower of Victory because you needed to end the game in feudal or early castle. So everyone was going Tower of Victory because you get attack speed for your archers, and it's great. Which meant that not only your already terrible Imperial is bad, but it's even worse because you have less scholars. Now, because Delhi Elephants got buffed and House of Learning got buffed with, I think, 2 new upgrades, right? And then the university upgrades are extremely expensive, right? For every other civ, but for Delhi they're free. That's also a buff for Delhi. Well, now Delhi is actually very good in Imperial. So because they're very good in Imperial, you don't need to go Tower of Victory and end the game early. You can just play the game normally as every other civ. So because of that, we figured out that instead of getting 20% attack speed for feudal or early castle, you can actually drop that and go Dome of Faith and get cheaper scholars, and you can permanently produce scholars. So what this did is allow Delhi now to enter castle with like 15 scholars, and you get upgrades faster than other civs do, even if they are upgrading faster, because you can just upgrade everything immediately, and everything upgrades really quickly. And then as you're approaching Imperial, you have like 25, 30 scholars, and your upgrades are really fast. So that whole problem that Delhi had when you reach Imperial, you're waiting for upgrades for 20 minutes, that doesn't happen anymore. And again, the problem with this comes with Delhi used to be bad in Imperial, now it's not. So now people are like, well, I can still attack in feudal. If it doesn't work, we just transition into castle, into Imperial, and so on. I would say Delhi probably needs nerfs. I would say maybe even more so than Abbasid, just because they don't have a weakness right now at all, and that's a problem. Like, a civ can be an S tier, but a civ should have weaknesses. Delhi right now, there is no weak point in the game. So something should change. I don't know what, but something should change. Some of the changes that I think could be pretty good, an obvious one is nerfing Dome of Faith so that scholars are more expensive. They can also do stuff, they need to slow down their upgrades, I think. That's the thing I think devs should do. So even, I think I saw Corvin suggest this, to reduce the amount of scholars that you can fit in mosque. So if you guys don't know, we used to be able to fit only 3 scholars per mosque, but then they increased it to 5. And maybe it's time to revert that, because right now, 2 mosques and Dome of Faith, you can put 15 scholars inside, right? So if you have to build more mosques to put scholars in, that's already a nerf.
Just in time for tier list.
So, very, very, very good civ. Next one, I'll be talking about that this civ has received a lot of nerfs. A lot of nerfs. I can't even remember how many. Tower upgrades got more expensive. Relic in towers got nerfed. Chapel got nerfed. And I still think HRE is S tier. I've played it quite a bit. I'll be honest, the chapel nerf is massive because you basically cannot fit 3 layers of farms under a chapel, but you can still fit 2 layers. And the reason HRE is so strong is because of the early game. By the time you reach late game, it's like, yeah, your chapel doesn't reach 3rd layer of farms. Boo-hoo. But it's still very, very strong civ. Yeah, it's just very good. A Civ that's very disappointing to me. Very, very, very disappointing. And this is also a Civ that I have played quite a bit. It has been my favorite Civ for a very long time. Very, very long time. I used to main this Civ. But it's depressing how bad it is. It's gonna be Mongol. It feels so bad to play it. Like, Ottoman has its weird moments and weird transitions, but when you get going, you get going. I don't know where you get going with Mongol. Like, when I played the last few games with Mongol, I stopped for a second. I was like, what is my strength here? What is my advantage? What's the point of this Civ? And I don't know. I generally don't know. It just weak everywhere, I feel like. There's not one point in the game where I feel the opponent should be worried. You know what I mean? It does not feel good. The tower rush is non-existent, if you guys don't know, at the top level. Even if you do a tower rush, a Civ can either defend it by actually making spearmen just killing you because they have better eco. Even if you tower rush something, people will just be like, oh, you tower my gold? I'll just go in that gold and make an archer. And then it's like, oh, okay, I didn't do anything there. Trade is cool. Counters are cool. But in theory, everything is cool, but it doesn't really work at the top level right now. And I do think Mongol will still be played in tournaments on some of the maps. Like, there are still some maps where Mongol is good, like hybrid maps and stuff like that. But playing Mongol on, like, Dry Arabia or you know, Gorge or something is just such a gamble. Not to mention, every time you load in with Mongol, you're just like, please have a good neutral market. And then you play Dry Arabia, and you see neutral market, like, behind your TC, and you're like, well, I guess instead of trading 90 gold per trip, I'm going to be getting, like, 32. Yeah, recently devs have buffed second town center to be 800 wood, and I actually saw a game of Mongol with 2 TC. It just doesn't look very good. I think that's what it comes down to. What I would love to see for Mongol change, I want Mongol economy to be better. I think their economy is just trash. You know how Malian has, like, worse units, but they can produce a lot of them because of their economy. Mongol is in a similar position, but not with units, but because they don't have walls. And not having walls is a very big deal. So I think that Mongol should have something better compared to other civs because they don't have walls, right? Their towers are not strong enough, even with the Imperial upgrades, to hold anything. One thing that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, and that I thought about recently, Mongol pastures are the worst food income in the game, which is a massive problem. Do you know why it's the worst income in the game? Because every sheep contains 200 food. Your villagers are always getting stuck around each other trying to get a sheep. Every 200 wood, which, you know, mid to late game, that gets exhausted very quickly. Then the villagers have to do that animation where they're killing the sheep. And that might not seem like a lot, but all that adds up, and their food income is just trash compared to the other civ with same or similar amount of workers. I've had games where, I'll compare it with Zhu Xi Legacy, which I know has very good food income, but a Zhu Xi Legacy with like 30 farms and 1 granary has more income than Mongol with like 50-55 workers. Like, that's just crazy. You know, like that's just insane. So, not to mention like some other civs like English that their farms give gold, or Rus that have higher gathering rate and stuff like that. What I would like to see Mongol get is not better units, although Keshik could maybe use a little bit of something. I would like Mongol to get their stone eco upgrades buffed. I think they should be cheaper. I think you should have an option. Do I go double Keshik, or do I get a little eco upgrade for gathering speed? Do I go 3-4 times double archer, or do I get wood upgrade, right? So you have a choice. Like, if I'm all-inning, I'm using everything on units. If I'm not all-inning, if I go to TC, I want to use my stone on eco upgrades. And I think their eco play is just trash. which is kind of the problem. And then the trade play is great, but again, you're very RNG dependent on where your trade actually is. And I've suggested this to devs a long time ago. I think I like the idea that Mongols don't have walls, but they should get like wooden fortresses or something like that. Maybe something that can garrison 10 village or 10 units and is not like a keep, but it's a very strong tower would be pretty good. That costs like 600 or 800 wood and maybe like 200 stone would be pretty good. Another thing that I think would help the Mongol civ a lot would be if they reverted the tower lingering buff. So for the people that are maybe newer to Aoe4, you know the tower movement speed buff that you have when you're in the tower range? Mongol used to have it so that when you pass through the tower range, you would get the speed. Yeah, Yam Network, I forgot what it's called. You would get that speed for 15 seconds after, I think it was 15 seconds after you left the range. Maybe that was too much. Maybe they should give it like 8 seconds or 10 seconds after you leave the tower range. You still have the movement speed. Because the whole point of Mongol is you kind of want to create Yam Network of towers so you have vision everywhere on the map. But if you don't have them ideally connected, that your units are just slow and you don't have walls, it's very hard to catch units. So, I don't know. Very sad because I, like OOTD and Mongol, I love these two civs, but they're just... So, yeah. Next civilization we'll be talking about is Rus. I'm going to give Rus 8 here. Rus turned into an interesting civ with the recent change. So, Rus early game is worse compared to what it used to be after the Bounty rework. And, okay, chill, Marine Lord. You don't have that problem anymore. Now, there's, you know, Rus can go to town center. Rus can go some kind of 1 TC aggression, which is not the greatest. And also, Rus can go now fast castle, horse archer gameplay, which I think is pretty good. And Golden Gate is back. So Golden Gate is being used again. I would even say Golden Gate is getting used more than Kremlin these days. So I think overall Rus is a pretty good civ. It has pretty strong late game. It has pretty good economy. Their feudal, honestly, is probably the worst out of their other ages, but, you know, it's not terrible or unplayable. So, the next civilization we'll be talking about is going to be... Let's just take care of the easy one. I mean, recently Byzantine got a nerf. Their mercenaries are like 20 oil more or something like that. And their cataphract, the gulp ability got nerfed a bit, but it's still very good. Not much has changed. I've played Byzantine. You don't really feel it. Like, yeah, it's a small nerf they received, but it's not like, oh my god, it's, you know, a lot worse now. It's not. The next civ I'll be talking about is going to be, let's do Japanese. I actually think Japanese is pretty good, and I'm talking about land maps. I have played a lot of Japanese recently, and I think I won every single game I played with them. The reason for this is the meta right now at the top level, a lot of it is like some kind of variation of castle rushing into getting relics or two town centers, in which case Japanese is okay against both, because if the enemy goes 2 TC, as Japanese you go fast castle, you take the relics, you put some pressure, and you can get second TC yourself. And then if the enemy fast castles, this is where it's very interesting. I think Japanese is incredibly strong because, let's say H3 fast castles and goes knights. If you fast castle and you go Onamushas, you will absolutely farm the knights. So Onamusha is very, very popular right now, and it's basically their cavalry crossbow because it absolutely butchers the knights. So no matter what civ you play against, if they rush castle against you, I feel like very comfortable when you play Japanese. Now, obviously, Japanese is still weak against feudal all-ins. That's kind of their weak spot. But there hasn't been as many feudal all-ins as of recent. Like, yes, some civ can still do it. But the fact that the meta is kind of shifting into more macro play, I think benefits Japanese quite a bit. Next civ we'll be talking about is going to be China, A tier. Pretty good. Love China. I think it's a solid civ. I think China playstyle definitely changed. You cannot rely just on pure Nest of Bees anymore. There's a lot of different playstyles with China, which I think is one of the civ's strength. You can go like 1 TC Castle Rush, you can go 2 TC, you can go Zugin all-in, which I think all of those options are very, very good. And even recently we've seen a 4th build with China, which is Pro Scouts. You rush Pro Scouts, you get some deer, and then you go castle. So it's pretty cool stuff. Now, we got 3 remaining. A+. Which civ do you guys think goes in A+? For the first time in I don't know how long, I think... Dude, Reddit's gonna love me for this. Dude, every Redditor is gonna be like, he said it! My civ sucks! My civ is unplayable! Stop flaming me! Because I'm an English main. I think English not as great as it used to be. Now, funnily enough, I think everyone expected English to actually be even better. The recent farm nerf hit them in the nuts quite hard, I feel like. And not only that, the network nerf hit them in the nuts quite hard. Because those two things are like what makes English English. So the gold got nerfed, network got nerfed, and on top of that, elite army tactics being nerfed apparently affects a civilization that spams men-at-arms quite a lot. Even though incendiary arrows and rangers and the extra range is great, I don't think English is that good anymore. And I think the biggest issue comes from actually English not feeling great in feudal and in early castle compared to some of these other civilizations. Like, it kind of feels slow, and yes, you have very strong units in the late game, but I feel like I'm always like economically behind with English, even when I have 2 TC. It just feels like the eco ain't there. Not to mention any variation of fast castle, like the meta I said earlier, is not really going to work out for you. But then if you go 2 TC into fast castle and enemy fast castles, you're always under pressure and you're always fucking steering and you're always about to die. Dethroned from S tier for God knows how long to A+. English literally unplayable, by the way. Literally unplayable civ. The next civilization is going to be Ayyubid, and I gotta say, Ayyubid to me is either S tier or A tier. I'm gonna put it in A+. I don't think it's as strong as these civs. Very good civs, very flexible civ actually. And I would say it's a great tournament civ, Ayyubid. You can play it anywhere. You can play it on water maps, hybrid maps, open maps, closed maps, 2 TC, Castle Rush, Feudal All-In. I think that no matter what civ they face, also they're pretty decent. I would say their worst matchup is probably like Byzantine and Abbasid maybe. But overall, I think it's pretty good, pretty flexible, but I don't think it's like OP or needs nerfs or something like that. And last but not least, we got Zhu Xi's Legacy. And S+ tier, we don't have it this time around because Zhu Xi Legacy, I'm going to put it A+. I think Zhu Xi Legacy is very good. And, oh, you guys got debated so hard, dude. You guys got debated so hard. I think it's A+. I don't think it's S tier. To me kind of screams like could use a nerf. You know what I mean? Zhu Xi is very good. And I think I mentioned in the previous tier list that I can see Zhu Xi Legacy going up in the tier list department. And I mean, they're almost at S tier. Very good. They got very good economy. There's actually a lot of maps where Zhu Xi is insanely OP because of the way the spawns work with the resources. So some maps, I'll just give you a quick example. And there's actually a lot of these maps. You might think there's not a lot of these maps, but there are. And Zhu Xi becomes from like an A tier civ to S plus just because of the spawn. Zhu Xi Legacy, huge tempo gain that they have is from their landmark meditation gardens. So the more resources there are cramped up in one spot, Zhu Xi can put the meditation garden there and gain like, you can go from like 70 resources per minute on some map to like 150 resources per minute, which is obviously massive, massive, massive difference. So for example, you know, you can play on this map, let's say, and if you're pink, you can go for the landmark here, you get 75 gold per minute, right? Or sometimes you will get like this, 2 berries, and then you'll have gold and stone or something, or just gold. And if you put your landmark here, you're getting like 2 workers worth of food, and then you're getting gold as well, or stone. You can also put your landmark here, like again, sometimes berries spawn, so you get like gold, berries, and wood. And Zhu Xi on those kinds of maps becomes like insanely good, and when you play them with that kind of economy, it is very, very noticeable. So I would say their high highs are very high, but their low lows are still pretty good. And Zhu Xi can be played in a lot of different ways. You can play them with 1 TC Castle Rush, which is actually the fastest Castle Rush in the game. By far, by the way, it's not even close. You can start aging up with Zhu Xi Legacy. I think my fastest was 5 minutes 15 seconds, which is insane. Like, there's no civ that can prevent you from doing that in the game. So 5 minutes 15 seconds, you start the age up, you finish age up at like 6, and you can start getting relics. So it's great into any Castle Rush civ because you can take the relics first. 2 TC Zhu Xi is great because they have great economy, or because of Imperial officials. Zugunu All-In is very good. And then even late game, if you think about it, if you go super late game, they have Imperial Guards, which are incredibly strong, one of the best cavalry in the game. And then you have 10,000 bolts for their crossbows, which crossbows are very good units in the game currently. Not theirs, but just in general, crossbows are in a very good spot. So, very good. Love that. Thumbs up. That's going to be it. Guys, again, no gold players were harmed in the making of this tier list. I need everybody to calm down. It's going to be okay. And always remember, you're losing because the enemy civ is overpowered and yours is the worst civ in the game. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on Twitch, let's keep going with the GG dog right here that you guys can see. He's like, come on, you know what I want food. Do you want me to order food and then we can share? I'll give you the GG dog text. GG dog is such a cute dog. Look at her.